Hey, there's a thing here, transcript thing.
You can just keep it there, sir. Have a seat.
Okay.
Put the microphone close to you, please. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
My name's Isaac Baruch. ISAAC BARUCH.
Mr. Baruch, where do you currently live?
I live in Los Angeles.
Do you know the plaintiff in this case, Johnny Depp?
Yes.
How do you know Mr. Depp?
I know him since teenagers. We met in Florida.
And could you tell the jury a little bit about your experience meeting Mr. Depp when you were teenagers in Florida?
Yeah, we were both playing in bands. We had mutual friends, and that we met in probably 1980. And yeah, we hit it off. We got along with each other, and yeah.
How often did you see Mr. Depp when you were teenagers together in Florida?
A few times a month. I'd say it could be more, a little more or whatever, because, you know, we'd see each other at parties and clubs, nightclubs where the bands played. Yeah, like that.
And for how long were you both living in Florida and seeing each other somewhat regularly?
Well, we met in like 1980, so and then we both moved away. He moved to California, I moved to New York. What was that, from 80 to 83? That was that, like 4 years?
What were your impressions of Mr. Depp while you were both living in Florida at the same time?
Oh, he's a sweet kid. A sweet guy.
Sir, wait, there's an objection.
Oh.
Thank you.
What his impressions were back then?
Or what's the relevance?
Just establishing the background and the relationship, Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question, please.
All right. Mr. Baruch, did there come a time when Mr. Depp moved away from Florida?
Yeah.
And where did he move to, if you know?
Like I said before, he moved to California.
At some point in time, did you also move to California?
Yeah.
And did you reconnect with Mr. Depp when you got there?
Yeah.
Around what time was that?
Sometime during the first year, and then afterwards, after the first year, more and stuff. Yeah.
About what year would you say that was?
Oh, I moved to California in September of '85.
And did you know if Mr. Depp was working when you arrived in California in 1985?
Well, I knew he was pursuing acting at that time. Yeah, he's looking for work because he's pursuing acting.
How often did you see Mr. Depp when you first moved to California?
Well, like I said, the first year, a few times. Afterwards, I had a friend whose girlfriend lived in the same building as Johnny, and so then hanging out over there, I ended up seeing Johnny more often. And plus, my friend, who I'm talking about, whose girlfriend lived in the same building, he was playing in a band, and they needed another guitar player, and Johnny ended up joining the band, so we were hanging out a lot more often.
What were you doing when you moved out to California?
I was pursuing music also, working retail jobs and trying to get a band, make a band, you know.
Did there come a time when you began working for Mr. Depp?
Oh, yeah.
When was that?
Oh, that's later on. That's like in 1993.
What were you doing for Mr. Depp when you started working for him in 1993?
Well, he owned a place called the Viper Room, and which is a music venue, nightclub, bar, and bands play. And it was already open for 6 months. And the girl who was working, the person who was working as office manager didn't want to work there anymore. So the guy who was running the place for Johnny, who was a friend named Sal Jenko, another Florida friend from back in 1980 when we all first meet, he calls me up and he says, "Hey, Isaac, do you want to work this job?"
I don't think it's offered for the
I don't
truth
think
of the
it's relevant
matter.
either. I mean, can we
That's
get-
fine. I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
At some point in time, did you stop working at the Viper Room for Mr. Depp?
Oh, yeah.
When was that?
Well, I worked from 93 to 98. In 98, I moved away.
Did you return to LA again at some point?
Yes, I did.
When was that?
I moved back December of 2002.
What did you do for work when you returned to LA?
Well, for 2 weeks, I worked at an art gallery, and then I went back to the Viper Room on New Year's Eve.
How long were you working at the Viper Room at that point in time?
It was another year, and then the place changed hands.
Were you working on anything else while you were working at the Viper Room in that time frame?
Yeah, I was sidewise. I was teaching myself art.
And what steps were you taking to teach yourself art at that time?
Books, learning how to draw and paint, and taking community college classes.
At some point in time, did you begin pursuing art on a full-time scale?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, I was working at the Viper Room, taking classes, and then at one point, the club changed hands completely after a year, 2004. And I was given a choice of either keep working for these new owners, or Johnny, out of his pocket, was going to give a severance pay to whoever didn't want to work there anymore. So I took the severance pay, and then it helped me continue on to finish community classes, private classes, and then be able to transfer to Cal State University.
And did you get a degree from Cal State University?
Yes, I did.
What degree was that?
BFA,
What year?
2010.
After you received your BFA, did you continue to pursue art full-time?
Yeah.